follow us on a 3-month motorcycle adventure around Australia. Joe rides the bike,
while Flora is our principal camera operator. It's the two of us as travelers and film crew. This is Australia, inside out.
Sydney, an iconic and impressive opening to an Australian stage. For us, it's the beginning of our longest Sunday ride yet.
We get in a few days early to arrange our gear, details, and of course, the motorcycle.
We're here at Pro Cycles in Sydney, ready to pick up our bike. Can't wait to see it.
We ended up selecting the BMW R1200 GS Adventure. We picked it for its fuel range, carrying capacity, and reliability. Well, hopefully.
Alright, so the bike's all ready. Check. Gear's all set up. Check. Awesome. It's time to meet up with a few friends and swing by Sydney's Asian night market and get our food on. The markets sprawl along the lower streets of Chinatown, offering eager people bountiful amounts of Asian cuisine. There's something for everyone, including a sheet of meat, something Joe couldn't get enough of.
Our first day's leg takes us from Sydney to Coffs Harbour via Gloucester. A 591-kilometre run is just what we need to get used to the big beamer.
This is our first attempt at getting everything on the bike. It's a little, different, I guess you could say.
Honestly, this was a leg I'd been dreading in the planning stages. Thousands of kilometers of highway to get us to Airlie Beach. All that dread? Gone the moment we passed Sydney's Harbour Bridge. We were on our way, riding around Australia. Or we thought we were.
My first attempt at packing failed a little bit. The tripod started slipping off as we went on the motorway, and so I'm just doing a little minor adjustment so that it stays on this time.
No harm done. No tripods skidding across Highway 1. We got back on track to Gloucester.
Gloucester is a small town with a population of 2,600, once home to the infamous bushranger and highway robber, Captain Thunderbolt. It is now a popular destination for Sunday rides. We ended up in Coffs Harbour, probably a little later than what we wanted to. It was around 5:30, 5:45 by the time we rolled in. I think we're just going to try to keep going and get a lot of Ks under a belt in the next few days. Today's leg takes us from Coffs Harbour to Toowoomba, via Grafton and Warwick. A 456-kilometre run that sees less highway and more wilderness. After Grafton, that is.
Grafton's quite cool. It's a small little town that doesn't have a lot of people, but it definitely has everything here, and it's quite busy because of it. So it's a good stop. We've got some breakfast coming, and then we're off taking a dirt track, or not track, a dirt road, just an unsealed road up to Warwick.
So we've ridden about 150 kilometers. A lot of it was a dirt track, which was kind of cool. And some of it was paved. Saw one kangaroo so far, and he was pretty far away, so we didn't hit him, which was nice.
Keep heading down that road there until we hit Toowoomba, pretty much. Warwick and Toowoomba.
I think today has been the best riding so far. I know it's only day 2, but it was really nice and quiet. We saw maybe four cars and one logging truck, and that was it.
We went through a rainforest and some hills, and you know, just it's a very windy road and a pretty poor surface, so just made for slow going. Arrived here about 5 o'clock, so it was another long day, another full day.
Toowoomba to Hervey Bay through Esk, a scenic 400-kilometer ride that would have anybody begging for more. But first, a stop at the Cobb & Co Museum on the way out of town.
Cobb & Co, a company entrenched in Australian history, dating back to its colonization. Cobb & Co operated coaches in Australia for almost 150 years, starting in 1854. And it played a significant part in making this massive continent just a tad bit smaller. So we've just come across this little picture of On the Track, and it's basically talking about loading the carts properly, which, you know, I sort of relate to because I load the bike up, and this is what happens when you don't load the cart correctly.
The first time either of us have really even seen a stagecoach, and I think we were both amazed at the size of them. They're much larger than what I picture. I mean, you see them in the movies, but you don't quite, you know they're big. You see people stepping into them, but you don't get that sense of it.
This is the world famous Lamington. Apparently it was invented here in Toowoomba, but, you know, who's going to argue about a Lamington? It's basically sponge cake covered in chocolate icing and coconut, served with a little bit of whipped cream.
Leaving Toowoomba, that's when we noticed, wow, we're on a big hill. There's a windy hill just full of trucks in first gear, just riding the engine brake down because they don't want to lose control, and it was pretty crazy actually.
Riding on a sunny day through gentle turns revealing a tasty scenic treat around every bend. We never wanted it to stop. And it didn't. We became lost. Time for me to blame the GPS as the sun begins to set.
I'm not sure if it was user error or the GPS, but either way, we were lost and riding in the dark again.
So you're doing 100 Ks in the dark, and all you keep thinking is, isn't this when the kangaroos and marsupials and stuff cross the road?
We finally arrived at the Big Four campground, but it was well after dark. The giant Big Four sign was like the bat signal.
Today is over 400 kilometers of highway riding, stopping at Gingin for a world-famous meat pie before hitting the beef capital of Australia, Rockhampton.
So it's Wednesday morning. We finished our walk around Hervey Bay and it was quite nice. It's a neat little town. Had lots of walking paths and weight things you can do along the way, like exercise machines and stuff, which was really cool. And Flora's packing up, I'm having a quick coffee, and we're heading on to Rockhampton today.
With each passing kilometer, it seems the weather just keeps getting better. The cold from New South Wales is now a distant memory. The sun brings out gorgeous colors, making the ride so enjoyable. But I'm not sure if Joe even noticed. He was so focused on getting his world-famous meat pie.
We're at the town of Gingin and decided to stop at the Traveller's Rest Cafe because it's home of award-winning meat pies.
It is a pretty good pie.
There's definitely less population up here. You can start to see it now. Still a lot of trucks though. Lots and lots of trucks on the main road.
Rockhampton is the beef capital of Australia. as you come in, all you see are cows everywhere, like cow statues, cow this, cow that, steerman this, stockman that. So it's definitely, you know, it's all about the cattle.
A 500+ kilometer ride today, following the coastline almost the entire way up to Airlie Beach.
So I woke up to the crazy birds here at about 6 in the morning.
And we're going to go to Airlie Beach today. So we're going to try to get the riding done in the morning so that we're not, most of the riding done in the morning, so we're not around by 4 o'clock when it's really hot. The ocean displays glimmering turquoise waters. The views on the right side were absolutely amazing. Joe, eyes on the road. We arrive at Airlie Beach well before dark. Seems like we're getting better at planning our times. There's no surprise why Airlie hosts many visitors a year. What a great location.
So here we are in Airlie Beach now. So we came from Rockhampton, or Rocky. And it'd just be nice to have a day off tomorrow, off the bike. We get to do touristy stuff, so looking forward to that. And getting my hair cut tomorrow. The weather's just phenomenal. It's hot already, and it's really sunk into me that it's gonna be hot when we go inland. I'm not built for heat, and this is hot.
There's no mistaking it. Airlie Beach is a tourism destination. Hundreds of thousands descend upon the beachside town every year. Every person you see is about smiles, bathing suits, and a cocktail in hand. Well, except for Joe, that is, complaining about the heat.
When in the Whitsundays region, it's your duty to visit the famous Whitehaven Beach. Don't worry, you can't swing a dead cat and not hit someone trying to sell you a trip there. Wait, why would I be swinging a dead cat on the beach?
Stepping off the boat onto Whitehaven Beach is like a portal between reality and a postcard. The surrounds, the sand, the sun, it was all so perfect.
Speaking of perfect, the silica sand on Whitehaven is so pure, 98% in fact, that it was used in construction of the Hubble telescope. NASA did ask for a second batch of sand and were denied by the government, so don't get caught with a handful in your day bag. The rain doesn't dampen the mood at all. Today we head inland to Charters Towers.
For the first time since we left Sydney, we saw rain clouds. Big rain clouds.
I don't want to blame the Garmin, because the Garmin didn't make it rain or make the bike go down a muddy track, but let's say it did.
And then Joe's like, oh, the GPS wants me to turn right off the main road. I'm like, do it. The GPS knows best. It knows where to go. It's getting pretty muddy, so I said, okay, well, stop and I'll go look at this bridge crossing because it looks pretty muddy. So I stop, get off, and walk towards the bridge. As I'm coming back, all I see is the bike just fall over. And Joe falls with it. What happened?
Mud. I just started rolling up and it just hit mud and I couldn't hold it and just look at it.
We finally got the bike up, but now we need to get the hell out of here, and it's extremely muddy. And we're in the middle of a, what do you call it, sugarcane field or whatever. And the tires are completely caked with mud.
So that took an hour. We covered about 10 kilometers in that hour. Not a good average.
Back on the sealed road, Joe's inner child is jumping out at every road train he sees. Maybe he didn't get enough toy trucks when he was little.
It's a neat feeling now that we're off the coast. Just now we're heading inland, and you can see you're starting to get to that outback that you know, when we were planning the trip, I was thinking about starting to see the road trains. They're monstrous. 150 feet of, or 50 meters, so a bit more than 150 feet of truck.
I'm so fed up with this Garmin GPS right now. It just takes you like, you know, you put in Aussie Outback Oasis, and that's what I put in. It even found it. It had it on the database, and it took us to the middle of town. And then we decided to put in the actual address for this Big 4 park, and it took us to another street in the middle of town. I have no idea what's going on.
Thanks to the GPS, we did a few scenic loops of town before pulling out our trusty sextant to locate the caravan park. Thanks, GPS. When we arrived, it was the busiest part of the day. We set up camp and pretty much crashed.
Today we have a 540-kilometer leg. There's no doubt we'll be able to find adventure somewhere.
Joe almost got attacked by a spider this morning, and he started screaming like a little girl.
We're in Charter Towers. We're at the arcade, which used to have the stock exchange here. So they built the stock exchange for all the mining and all the resources coming out of Charter Towers, mainly gold at the time. And of course now that's well and truly gone, but we have the stock exchange cafe. And had this old guy come up, and he was just yakking away. He was an old drover. It was really cool, actually, just talking about Australia and different things.
Sometimes it's about the journey, and sometimes it's about the destination. You just don't know which is which until it happens.
$130.5.
As we head inland, everything seems to creep up. Fuel prices, temperatures, distances, you name it.
Our first main stop of the day, Hughenden, home of the Flinders Discovery Center and the Mudaburasaurus. Try saying that 5 times fast. The Discovery Center shows the local history of the area and how it was an ancient seabed. The heat and dryness of the riding today has me daydreaming of Whitehaven Beach.
The heat wave from Hughenden to Richmond is broken by the sight of a giant dinosaur crocodile statue. Later we learn it's called the Kronosaurus, not something you want to see wading in a creek.
Last leg, in the heat. Well, for today at least. Julia Creek, population 506. Everything that's happening is happening at one place, the pub, come hotel and restaurant. I've become a strong believer cold beer actually tastes better in outback Australia. The liveliness of the pub also led me to believe I wasn't alone in that opinion.
You know, we're setting up camp and stuff like that, and there's these dogs that keep hanging around wanting us to throw sticks, but every time you went to grab the stick from them, they'd run away. So it was pretty funny. Anyway, they were friendly dogs, and then they started barking. So it was like, they're not our dogs.
This is our shortest leg so far, a couple 100 kilometers to the mining town of Mount Isa.
The only thing more spectacular than outback sunsets are outback sunrises. They definitely make the early starts easier to swallow. From Julia Creek, it was pretty straightforward. Just out of town, we almost hit a flock of, I think they're like some kind of hawk, or like, you know, a hawk family type bird. We passed through Cloncurry, recording a temperature of 53.1 degrees Celsius in 1889. It was revealed that the recording method was a makeshift beer crate thermometer. When properly measured, it was only 49 degrees. Like, oh yeah, that would make it much better. The Mount Isa mine stack is the landmark seen for miles, a lighthouse for those seeking their fortune. When you do get closer, you can't miss the mine. It's right in the middle of town. There's heaps to do in Mount Isa, all mining related. The mine is one of the most productive in the world, churning out lead, copper, and zinc.
Over 800 kilometers to run today, spanning 2 roadhouses and 2 highways, and not a lot in between them.
Well, we just had the shortest leg, so now it just makes sense that we have the longest leg. Leaving Mount Isa early means a few close calls with Mother Nature. The first with a wild pig, the second with a not-so-wild kangaroo. In fact, I think with a bit more time, the roo would have come with us.
The distances are vast between stops, with 300 kilometers between each roadhouse. Remember me amazed at $1.30.5 for fuel? Yeah, I'd be happy paying that now.
We've got about 140, 150 Ks left to go in the day, and that'll make it an 800 plus K day.
For the first time in 10 days and over 4,300 kilometers, we're heading south.
So we hit the Devil's Marbles right now, and just when we pull in, I just felt the clutch go. I've got a little bit left just right there, and that's it. Enough to get us to Alice tomorrow and see what the bike shop can do for me, really. Hopefully something.